Of showery rain moving in as we head towards dawn, but further east and further south, many places start Friday with some blue skies and some sunshine. But it will cloud over across northeast England, the Midlands, with this showery zone working its way into South Wales too. Some heavy bursts possible, ending up across southwest England later. Lots of showers still packing into western Scotland and Northern Ireland. The wind's easing a touch, but still quite a blustery day and a colder feel for most, although we could still get up to a pretty mild 13 degrees across the southeast. Now, still a bit of uncertainty about Saturday, but we're looking at some wet weather and increasingly windy weather for parts of England and Wales. Maybe a little bit further north than this, and it may have a bit of snow mixed in over the hills, but be prepared for some heavy bursts of rain to move across England and Wales. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, it should be bright enough on Saturday with some sunny spells, but a few wintry showers in the far north.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bowl.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. You're watching State of the Nation on GB News with me, Alex Armstrong, standing in for the venerable Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. On State of the Nation tonight.
To break the cycle of austerity, we need a fair and a sustainable tax system. That does mean that today I am asking everyone to make a contribution.
Yes, as Rachel Reeves' brutal budget unleashes a torrent of benefits scrounger slurs against millions of struggling Brits, sick, jobless and pensioners frozen by sky-high energy bills, I think it's time we ask, are we demonising our own when the real culprits are Labour's broken promises on taxes, growth and jobs? Also tonight.
Make no mistake, This plan means migration will fall. That's a promise.
Yes, immigration continues to be a headache for the Prime Minister, as today's statistics show that despite a 69% fall in arrivals, the reduction comes from work and study visas, when illegal housed in asylum hotels continued to rise too. Is the government capable or even willing to get a grip on this?
Let me explain to the Chancellor, woman to woman. People out there aren't complaining because she's female. They're complaining because she is utterly incompetent.
Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party, pulled no punches in her response to Rachel Reeves' budget yesterday, slamming the Chancellor for calling critics misogynists and accusing her of blaming everyone but herself for the country's economic woes. Is Kemi Badenoch finally proving that she's a capable leader? Plus,
must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them.
President Trump halts the processing of Afghans wanting to enter the USA after the shooting of 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. yesterday. With Afghanistan reportedly being the most dangerous country in the world, is this a proportionate response from the president? And is it something we should be considering here in the United Kingdom? Well, all of that and State of the Nation starts right now. Let's see if I get tripped up on some of the big words in Jacob's script tonight, because I'll be joined by my most phlogistically prognosticating panel, writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble, historian and author Dr. Tessa Dunlop. And as ever, let me know what you think. Go to gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Alex, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 8 o'clock, well, the top story tonight, Sir Keir Starmer is defending the government's tax-raising budget, insisting it will help lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. Rachel Reeves has frozen income tax thresholds until 2031, meaning millions will pay more as wages rise, with new taxes coming on electric cars, high-value homes and pension contributions. But alongside that, the Tutar benefit cap is being scrapped. Well, earlier today, Rachel Reeves told us here on GB News her budget is fair and, she said, necessary, insisting it doesn't break Labour's election pledges.
I did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
Sticking with politics and breaking tonight, a major government U-turn. Ministers have dropped plans to give workers day one protection against unfair dismissal. That's despite Labour pledging it in their election manifesto. The Business Department now says employees will need 6 months' service before they can claim unfair dismissal, reduced from the current 2 years, but still far short of the original promise. Change comes after a standoff between MPs and peers over the employment rights bill, including plans to curb exploitative zero-hours contracts. Ministers insist the compromise is needed to get the law through Parliament, while unions say the priority is now to secure new rights, like day one sick pay, by April. The United States has frozen all immigration processing for Afghan nationals and is now reviewing every asylum case approved under President Biden. That's after the shooting of 2 National Guard members near the White House. Homeland Security says that pause takes effect immediately as security and vetting protocols undergo an urgent overhaul. They're calling the previous system a massive failure. Well, it comes as we've seen the first images of the guardsmen critically injured in the attack, 24-year-old Andrew Wolfe and 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, both now in a critical condition. Officials in the US have also released a photo of the suspect, 29-year-old Ramanullah Lakanwal, an Afghan national who previously worked with US forces in Afghanistan. He was shot and detained at the scene. Officials say the motive, though, remains unclear, but the FBI has confirmed it is now an active federal terrorism investigation. Well, reacting from Mar-a-Lago earlier, President Donald Trump called the attack an act of terror and said he'll remove foreigners from, quote, any country who does not belong in America.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them.
Net migration to the UK has fallen by almost 2/3, according to new provisional figures from the ONS, dropping from 649,000 to now 204,000 in the year to June. That fall is largely down to fewer arrivals on work and study visas, but it comes as asylum claims hit a record high, with 110,000 people applying in the year to September. Hotel use for the asylum seekers, meanwhile, is also up 2% on last year, despite the government's pledge to shut them all by the end of this parliament. And small boat arrivals have jumped 53%. Well, the Immigration Minister Mike Tapp spoke to us earlier today. He says the figures show progress, but insists there is still much more to do.
This is positive signs. We've come down from that peak of around 944,000 under the last government. That's down to 204,000 net migration. So it's about bringing back that order, that control, and ensuring that legal migration isn't an open door, which is what we saw under the last government, so that British workers aren't being undercut. But we've still got a long way to go, both on legal and illegal migration.
Those are your 8 o'clock headlines. I'll be back with you at 9 o'clock. Now, though, it is over to the phlogistically prognosticating Alex Armstrong. Yes.
Absolutely fantastic, Sam Francis. There we go. Well, look, I want to talk about the budget because I want to talk about words like this. Benefits scroungers, job-dodging layabouts. This is the kind of rhetoric we're using to describe millions of mostly British people after Rachel Rees' doom-laden budget yesterday. And I'll get straight to the point. Is this really the way we should be talking about our fellow British people? Isn't this the kind of divisiveness that only serves the government? Millions of sick people who simply can't work due to illness, those struggling to find a job in a dying market, all thanks to poor decisions by successive governments, time and time again. Pensioners and the elderly who are struggling to pay their energy bills and stay warm this winter. These people are not our enemies. And let me just be crystal clear about something. I appreciate that benefits are being exploited by hundreds of thousands of people, immigrants coming into our country illegally, even legal migrants who I believe should have no right to claim from the British state. And not to mention those that are born and bred British citizens who have taken advantage of taxpayers' generosity for years. All of that needs to stop. In fact, as we know, migrants disproportionately claim more benefits than citizens do, another issue we desperately need to resolve. But benefits rising among British people is often the result of extremely bad government management of our country. It's Rachel Rees and Keir Starmer who promised you they'd get in control of our economy and deliver us growth. It's Ed Miliband that promised you he'd get on top of your energy bills. They have, so far, abysmally failed to do that. Unemployment rising every single month they've been in office, energy bills up by roughly £180. That is on them. Those are the lies they told you. It's not the fault of hard-working British people who have hit hard times and now need the system they've paid into to look after them. Most people on benefits would rather be working. But how can they when jobs are being lost every single month and cheap labour is being imported to replace them? Let's not forget, this government, in my strong opinion, gaslit and lied to you consistently prior to the election. They promised you they wouldn't raise taxes, not just way back then, but even last year, when they bled the country for even more money for their ideological policies, all while telling you they wouldn't be coming back for more. Now they're saying that they've asked everybody to contribute, while making a point of saying that working people wouldn't be taxed more just mere weeks ago. Well, that would all be fine if they could actually define what they mean by working people. But they use this corporate and meaningless rhetoric to blind you to their true intentions. It's what the left have done and will continue to do. So in summary, what I'd say is this. Don't attack hard-up British people. Go after the Chancellor, who's now broken a manifesto pledge to you. Go after the Labour Party for using doublespeak to blind you to the truth. Go after the Energy Secretary for misleading you about his energy bills promise. Go after the Prime Minister for overseeing this industrial-scale gaslighting and chaos. Let's not divide ourselves, because that division only serves the government in the long run. As ever, I want to know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Let's discuss this with political commentator Matthew Stadlen and my panel, the writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble and historian and author Tessa Dunlop. Matthew, I'll come to you first. Now, I make a point there because I reading a lot of the press today, there's a massive demonisation of people who genuinely do need benefits. And I have people reaching out to me all the time and say, I'm a sick person, I need benefits, and I hate this demonisation of me. I actually need this support. And people in my family have been benefactors of benefits, and they would say the same thing to me. However, this is the fault of a government who can't grow the economy a lot of the time,
It sounds to me, Alex, as though you've worked out that there might be quite a lot of GB News viewers who are on benefits.
So
and you don't want to offend, quite understandably, you don't want to offend a substantial, potentially substantial number of your viewers. And I certainly don't condemn those viewers. And I actually laud the fact that you are saying that the language that has been used, including by the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, in her scathing riposte to Rachel Reeves' budget yesterday, the language being used, benefit street, scroungers, these sorts of unpleasant words, is deeply unhelpful. Of course, there will always be some people who cheat a system. Yeah. But my view is that the vast majority of people in this country who are on benefits need to be on benefits. There is a view shared by some in Labour and many, I suspect, in the Tory party, that the welfare state is out of control, that it has ballooned and it is going to continue to balloon, according to the OBR, I think. And that needs to be very seriously looked at. But it needs to be looked at fairly, so that people who really need the benefits are on benefits. It is an age-old political divide in this country. Effectively, the right say you don't want to have too big a welfare state because otherwise you're disincentivising people to work. And the left say, and this is, I'm using caricatures here, but the left basically say we need to live in a civilised society where people who can't work still live a reasonable life. And where you put that, where you set that, that is really, really difficult. One final quick thing is, despite claiming to want to bring us together in your monologue, you still used immensely divisive language by pointing the finger over there at foreigners, suggesting that foreigners are somehow effectively en masse scrounging off the British state. Many, 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 many foreigners in this country work unbelievably hard, and some of them are quite reasonably and understandably entitled to benefits. Let's not stop the division just when it comes to people who are using the welfare state and maybe British. Let's stop the division, full stop.
Well, I'll just come back to the very first point you made, which is that I'm pandering to the audience. I just want to be clear about something. I'm a working class guy. My mum was a single mother. If she didn't have benefits, tax credits to help her, I wouldn't have had a life, a very good life at all. My grandmother was very ill. She had multiple sclerosis. She needed the state. And all I'm saying is there are genuine people that need this support in this country. And I want to make the point, just on your second point about foreigners claiming benefits, I think you have to pay into the system if you're not sick to get something out of it.
And they do.
And I think you need to do it for a long period of time before you actually are a net contributor to the system, not a net negative.
So I'm not
demonising all foreigners. I'm just pointing out the facts.
First of all, not all foreigners are entitled to all sorts of benefits. Yeah. OK, so we've got to be really clear about that. Secondly, if you come to this country as a refugee, you're already on your uppers. And thirdly, a lot of the foreigners that you're talking about have children. Those children are our responsibility, effectively, as a state, and we don't want slums developing in our country.
Emma, I'll pass it over to you.
Well, firstly, Matthew, I just think your accusation is extremely cynical, that Alex is somehow pandering to what you imagine GB News' audience to be. I don't think, actually, that the language that she's used is so awful. Yes, I agree with you. And I think Matthew's wrong that Conservatives in general just think that there should be no benefits at all. I think
didn't
most,
say that. Didn't say
well,
that.
I think most fair-minded Conservatives would agree that there should be some degree of welfare there for the people who really need it. But the fact is that our system is extremely soft, open to abuse. There are far too many people who are on welfare. The benefits bill is already far, far too large. You can easily sign on for things like anxiety.
Anxiety is the real thing, Emma.
OK, but in the economy...
Can be very serious.
I understand that, but in the economy that we live in now, there are lots of things that people can do for work. And the problem is, and this is a point that Kemi Badenoch has previously made, is that people are incentivised to stay on benefits and not incentivised to go back to work, because very often, and it's a perfectly reasonable calculation on their part, the benefits pay more than it would be for them to go back to work. But just very quickly, I think the point that has to be made is that this is part of a bigger picture, which is that the productive parts of the economy, the people who make the money, the people who are working really hard are being milked dry. Their quality of life is not good. And it is not fair to do things like raise the benefits bill by 16 billion that they're talking about by 2030, whilst you have people who are struggling to get by. It is not fair for those people to be paying for those on welfare.
Tessa.
To clarify, we have just seen a rise in the minimum wage, and actually the minimum wage now, I think, affords somebody, if they weren't actually just being dragged further up because of the fiscal drag that we've seen with these thresholds being frozen again, is potentially, if you're not living in London, a reasonable sum to live off if you're single and don't have dependents. The majority of the benefits giveaway that we saw occur yesterday was in child benefits for those on universal credit. I happen to live in a very poor borough in London. The socio-economic demographic of my school is particularly low. Like, we've just got rid of our recorder teacher because there simply aren't enough children who can afford recorder lessons. Now, I know that you're saying you're tootling on a flute, you know, more important to eat bread. But actually, I believe that in a civilised, progressive world, perhaps a recorder lesson and a slice of bread and butter are within the realms of possibility. And Britain is one of the G7. We are meant to be one of the most advanced industrial countries in the world. We have, over a series of years, tanked the economy. But what's most worrying about, and whether it's you've been on Brexit or the appalling management of COVID, I think, justifiably impressive response to Ukraine war, all these things feed in. But what depresses me about you, Andy, and I think that on so many levels you're very appealing, and I buy into,
Alex.
you know, Alex, well, there we are. All A's to me.
Not that appealing.
No, work on it, babes, work on it. You lost me halfway through your monologue, because the politics of grievance needs to feed off something. And I thought, wow, how refreshing. And like Matt, just my heart sank when you immediately had to seek division. I know this because I'm married to a foreigner. There are so many hidden costs to coming here and working, and wait till we start missing them, because they're stopping coming in. We've already seen they're stopping coming in. A right to remain visa, well over £1,000. Citizenship, well over £1,500. Every single tax on every single piece of bureaucracy, they pay through the nose.
OK, fair enough. Listen, I just think you should be a British citizen if you want to claim benefits. That's all I'm saying. And I think many people think that's a reasonable
But my
thing
husband
to request.
isn't... Well, hang on, he's worked here for...
He's worked here.
He's worked here for 20 years. Are you saying that when he has piles, he can't go... He doesn't, by the way. But if he did, he can't go to the doctor. Is that what you're saying?
What should happen to the children?
Alex, he should get a British citizenship. Alex, if he wants to be part of this country,
again, that's another hurdle. And yet,
Alex, you've got a heart. Alex, you've got a heart. I know you have. But beneath the bravado, you've got a heart. What happens to the children of these foreigners that you are scapegoating? Should they live on the street?
Well, my little brothers are children of a foreigner. They don't live in a street, and he's got on perfectly well here by paying his...
Some might, if you withdraw their help and support.
Matthew, thank you very much. Panel, thank you very much. Coming up in just a moment.
Now, make no mistake, this plan means migration will fall. That's a promise.
Yes, another migration headache for the Prime Minister, as today's statistics show that despite a 69% fall in arrivals, the reduction comes from work and study visas when illegals housed in asylum hotels have continued to rise. Is the government capable or even willing to get a grip on this? We'll see you shortly.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
There's a lot of tables out there that won't just have turkey on it. There'll be turkey and ham, and but I know some people that will cook 3 or 4 different meats. And obviously the joy of having turkey is that you can then make a turkey curry for Boxing Day and the subsequent days. So, you know, you should be having days of curry after your turkey lunch. I think for the masses, it's still hugely popular. You know, through the festive period at the Dog, we will have hundreds of people having Christmas parties, and most of them will order our turkey lunch or dinner. And then Christmas Day, we could sell it probably 3 or 4 times. The demand for people to go out for the traditional turkey roast is still massive. But hey, look, if you don't like a roast lunch, then why force yourself to have it on the, you know, probably one of the most important meals of the day in terms of bringing family together.
What about Sophie's point, Mark, about cost and spending £30, £40 on turkey? That is simply too expensive for lots of people.
Yeah, I'll never be able to defend or debate that. You know, I know more than anyone the challenges around food inflation, and a good turkey has become a huge cost. But I still think where people can afford the tradition, the joy of coming together, sharing a big turkey roast meal it's a brilliant Christmas tradition. But yeah, the food inflation, that's something we've talked about a number of times, isn't it? You know, it's crippling our business and it's crippling people at homes. I suppose the key thing to look at is if you know what you're doing with it, a good turkey will feed the family for many days. It's not just one meal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, Britain's latest migration figures have been released today, and it paints a mixed picture for the government, doesn't it? Provisional figures show net migration fell by 2/3 in the year ending June 2025 compared to the previous 12 months. But as Benjamin Disraeli once famously said, there are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics, because gross migration hit 898,000, with over 200,000 skilled British people leaving the country. So is it really the win the government are spinning out today? The reduction in net migration comes from a drop in arrivals for work and study, particularly from the EU. But the number of asylum seekers being housed in hotels has risen significantly. Despite the government repeatedly promising to end the practice, there has been an increase of 13% to more than 36,000 between June and September. And to add to the Prime Minister's woes, the Office for Budget Responsibility has warned Shabana Mahmood that net migration will reach 340,000 by 2030 because of the so-called Boris wave, migrants remaining in the UK rather than returning to their countries of origin. Will this government ever get a grip on this issue? Well, of course, I'm joined by my panel, broadcaster and author, writer Emma Trimble, and historian and author Dr. Tessa Dunlop. Emma, I'll come to you first. What do you make of these statistics today? Because it's quite a plethora of things to take into consideration, isn't it?
Well, one of the aspects of this, one of the reasons why net migration has gone down is because so many people are leaving the country. Yeah. I think that's the standout statistic here. And in relation to our previous conversation as well, I think many young people, and this is particularly young people who are leaving the country, people who would be productive in the economy are leaving because this is not somewhere where you can have aspirations, where you would choose to be an entrepreneur. It's very anti-business, very even anti-saving in this new budget. So one of the aspects of these ONS figures is that the number of people leaving Britain hit an all-time high in the year up to June. So, you know, I think that when people think of net migration numbers, they're thinking about the cultural change. They're thinking about people who are coming here. They're not necessarily thinking about the fact that there are actually a lot of British nationals who are leaving.
Yeah, and Tessa, this is the issue, isn't it? When we look at the situation with our growth and GDP per capita, migration actually hasn't pushed those up. If anything, it's come down with mass migration. So surely having skilled British people leave and actually poorer, less skilled people enter the country, that's not going to solve the long-term problem for Britain, is it?
It's a net loss, is what you're trying to say.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I've never understood, I mean, and channels like this, and even sometimes perhaps your fine self, Alex, always refer to the general migration figures as this all-out catastrophe. I think at the time they were riding high, the latter part of the Conservative administration, of about 600,000 net. Now, some of those are students who come here, pay a lot of money, way more than our domestic students, so they keep our beleaguered universities afloat, and it's a great form of soft power. They have a wonderful experience, like someone akin to Bill Clinton, or indeed his daughter at Chelsea, and then they go back to their country and they remember fondly Britain and they've paid their way, etc. So I don't understand why the student migrants are included anyway, because they're transitory, in those figures. The other type of migration that we should celebrate, Ukrainian visas, people from Hong Kong welcoming individuals who need refuge. We sign in and say we are ready to help and look after you. But all of these are put together and said it's a bad thing. It's wholly bad. It's not. It's a compliment to Britain that talented people want to come here, and it's a compliment to Britain when we welcome those needing safe passage.
Yes, but many of these people are not leaving, and some of the people are using it as a route in order to get a visa to work here. So if they're staying here, then they should be included in the migrant statistics. Also, the Boris wave...
Once they stay.
The Boris wave, 2.8 million people who came over, and you say once they stay, but people have been bringing over dependents as well who come and they live here, and you don't know whether or not they're going to stay or not. Obviously, the aspect of this that concerns a lot of people, and this fits into the point that we were talking about earlier in terms of the economy and how much taxpayer money, you know, everyone's being taxed up to their eyeballs, and we're literally spending billions on people who are coming over illegally on small boats. Well, part of these OBR statistics is that even though the government promised to end migrants in hotels, actually the demand for asylum accommodation has grown. The use of these hotels has actually grown. And I think that that's, I mean, people are not concerned about people who are coming over and studying. They're concerned about people who are coming over illegally, people who are coming over, low-skilled migrants who are actually, on average, a net drain on the economy, because if they live to the age of 80, they take literally hundreds of thousands of pounds.
And this isn't going to change under Shabam Mahmood's latest proposals. Most of these people are not allowed to work. They're seen to silt up the system and cost a fortune, upwards of $5 billion.
But people don't want them here in the first place.
Because they're not allowed to work. Some come from war zones. You Sudan at the moment. I would be running away from Sudan. I'd be getting as far away from Sudan as I could if I was living there right now. Eritrea, another place of conflict. These are vulnerable people. We immediately castigate them, as Alex
Vietnam, Pakistan, there are lots of people who are coming who don't have
indeed.
any right to be here, who shouldn't be here, and who shouldn't be allowed in as asylum seekers.
I think, well, listen, 300,000 people coming into Britain legally, that's the same size as the city of Newcastle. That's the entire population of Newcastle.
Stay. Most highly skilled migrants will leave again.
Well, that's not what we're looking at the moment. We're still looking at those numbers. In fact, more British people seem to be leaving, and EU nationals seem to be leaving, actually. And actually, the point I was going to make is that we just don't have the capacity.
But
the NHS backlog is massive. We haven't got enough homes. People can't buy houses in this country. And surely, how is this solving the problem? We're oversubscribed.
It's really interesting you should say that, this idea of a really full country, when at the moment we have the lowest birth rate we've had since 1938.
That's true. And we should do something about that. Yes, that's true.
Except that the vast majority of population growth is coming from immigration. And
lucky it's growing somewhere, because capitalism demands
because people
a
are
growing
concerned about
economy and a growing
cultural and
workforce.
demographic change and the pace of cultural change in certain areas. There are parts of the country, urban centres in particular, where the white British demographic has collapsed so much that the demographic in this country hasn't changed so much since the Black Death. Right. So people are absolutely within their right to be concerned about that.
But we have the same concerns in East London when the Jews came in because of the pogroms in Eastern Europe at the end of the 19th and early 20th century. It was ever thus that there was groups, clusters of people in urban areas.
And where now is the anti-Semitism against Jewish people in the East End coming from? Because it's not coming from the white British community on average, is it?
OK, well, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. Sorry, I know we could talk about this all evening, couldn't we? Thanks you, both of you. Coming up in just a moment.
Let me explain to the Chancellor, woman to woman. People out there aren't complaining because she's female. They're complaining because she is utterly incompetent.
Well, Kemi Badenoch pulled no punches in her response to Rachel Reeves' budget yesterday, slamming the Chancellor for calling critics misogynists. Is Kemi Badenoch finally proving what is she a capable leader of the Conservative Party? We'll see you shortly after the break.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
There's some further heavy, thundery rain affecting parts of Eastern Europe as we go through the next few days, particularly Greece and Albania. But starting off further west, yes, some rain pushing into the far northwest of Spain, but actually ahead of that, tomorrow looks largely fine and dry. A few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, but as I mentioned, it's further east, Greece, Turkey, Albania, where we're going to see heavy rain building up. Some places could see 250 millimetres through this week, enough to cause some disruption.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The showers moving through overnight, many places becoming clear by dawn, but some very strong winds, particularly in the north and the west. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place across northern and western Scotland. From this area of low pressure, moving to the north of Scotland, but the isobars really squidging together. Very strong gusts coming in here, 50, 60, maybe 70 miles an hour, perhaps even 75 in exposed parts, could cause some disruption. Blowing in plenty of showers for northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showery rain for England and Wales at the moment, but that all clears through. Many places become dry and clear by dawn. Temperatures dropping to about 6-7 Celsius in most towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside, but generally not quite as mild as it was last night. It is going to be very windy, though, tonight, particularly, as I mentioned, across northern and western Scotland, where we have a Met Office yellow warning in place. The kind of gusts we're talking about likely to cause some travel disruption, perhaps also maybe some power interruptions as the showers move through, maybe a little bit of snow over the hills. Could be a wet start for parts of northwest England, north and west Wales, this zone of showery rain moving in as we head towards dawn. But further east and further south, many places start Friday with some blue skies and some sunshine. But it will cloud over across northeast England, the Midlands, with this showery zone working its way into South Wales too. Some heavy bursts possible, ending up across southwest England later. Lots of showers still packing into western Scotland and Northern Ireland. The wind's easing a touch, but still quite a blustery day and a colder feel for most, although we could still get up to a pretty mild 13 degrees across the southeast. Now, still a bit of uncertainty about Saturday, but we're looking at some wet weather and increasingly windy weather for parts of England and Wales. Maybe a little bit further north than this, and it may have a bit of snow mixed in over the hills, but be prepared for some heavy bursts of rain to move across England and Wales. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, it should be bright enough on Saturday with some sunny spells, but a few wintry showers in the far north.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, this week's been dominated by the budget, hasn't it? Before yesterday's statement, Rachel Rees told Labour MPs that misogynistic Tories would not bring her down. But it seems Rachel Rees forgot that the person responding to her budget would be, indeed, a woman. Now, many pundits have said Mrs Badenoch's performance was her best since becoming leader of the opposition. Myself included, by the way. I think it was her best performance to date. Let's take a look at some of the highlights, or as the kids like to say, sickest burns.
I congratulate the Right Honourable Lady on delivering her second budget. I hope she enjoyed it, because it really should be her last. At the last budget, she said she was proud to be the country's first ever female Chancellor. After this budget, she will go down as the country's worst ever Chancellor. It tells you everything you need to know about her grip on the Treasury, and if she doesn't resign for breaking her promises, she should sure as hell go for this. What did the Chancellor think would happen when she went on breakfast telly to do an emergency public service announcement? I interrupt your Cheerios to bring you this frightening message about income tax. She's talking to the Chancellor. Is he mansplaining to you, by the way? Is he mansplaining? Do you want some help? Would you like some help? All we've had is wallowing in self-pity and whining about misogyny and mansplaining. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, let me explain to the Chancellor, woman to woman. People out there aren't complaining because she's female. They're complaining because she is utterly incompetent.
Now, that was quite the performance, wasn't it? I still love looking at Rachel Reeves' face after the sick burns, as they've been called, dropped in the chamber yesterday. Does the Tory leader's performance show that she's coming into her own as leader now, and she would, with such brutal responses, be able, of course, to respond to Mrs Reeves in a different approach, given that, of course, it was a woman opposite her rather than a man? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Emma Trimble and Tessa Dunlop are with me. Tessa, listen, I think, and I've been very critical, as I am with politicians when I don't think they're performing, but I thought that was a sensational performance from the leader of the Conservative Party yesterday. She's got a little bit of slack for it today, but she seems to be brushing it off pretty well. What do you think of it?
I think it's worth bearing in mind that she got to mark Rachel Reeves' homework before the budget because of the lead.
Well, that's true.
Okay, so she did have an advance guard. I also find it extraordinary that, not extraordinary actually, plain predictable, that men like you and right-wing rags like The Spectator are going, whoa, 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 bravo, bring it on, bitch fest. You know,
I apologise for the language. I'm sorry. I apologise for the language.
And actually, where it's disappointing is that I might have expected two women, perhaps as the old-fashioned feminist that I am, to raise the tone in the House, not to lower it. We are at the moment in Britain struggling with a crisis in the trust levels of our institutions, and performances like that don't encourage trust in politicians.
Are you kidding? I think it raised the tone more than any... I mean, it was just phenomenal. This is the Kemi people have been waiting for. And the quality of debate, the quality of discussion in the House of Commons is so unbelievably mediocre and poor that to see her being so forthright, so cutting, it was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, she landed every single point.
Right. She called Rachel 2 minutes spineless, shameless, completely aimless.
Well, if I may, because this is politics. This is what happens. They are very willing, Labour politicians, very willing to call Nigel Farage names, call other people on the right names, but when they get it back to them, it's all of a sudden some sort of misogyny. Simply, the reason why I thought, and most British people thought it was great, was because it was truth-telling. It was truth-telling, and it spoke the words that the people of the nation would like to say to the Chancellor,
why on earth
male
would a woman
or
not
female.
speak like that?
I think the curl of her lip, I think there was a cruelty to it. I thought, God, imagine being at the receiving end of that in a playground. No, I really
know
do.
Rachel can't take it,
in a
but
world
crikey.
of divisive politics, dog whistling, hate speech, why do we want to lead from the front with performances like that?
Sorry,
and why are we applauding it?
It's pathetic.
You think it's pathetic?
I don't think that there. I don't know. I think it's pathetic to say that there is something wrong with her being so forthright in this way.
But she was cruel. She was unkind.
I don't think she was cruel. I don't think she was cruel.
You can't be funny without being cruel.
But at the same time, yes, but it wasn't that unkind. I think actually she could have been a lot more damning. I think if you went to British people on the street and asked them, what would you say to Rachel Reeves? I think it would be far more damning than what Kemi Badenoch said.
It was accurate.
There were moments moments of humour. I like the Cheerios gag, you know, frighten them, get them all sorry for interrupting your Cheerios. There were moments of humour and candour, but altogether it was one note and it was very attack dog, and I found it abrasive and unattractive, and I expect my politicians to lead with improved
that's fair enough. Would you think it was misogynistic if she said it to Keir Starmer? Said the same thing. If she attacked him with the same...
Or if it were two men talking to each other.
I think what men often do. But as I'm saying, I don't expect two women to ape the men. I thought we'd moved on.
Why not?
That we can
isn't that the heart of equality? Isn't it the heart of equality that women can be just as good as men?
That was when Thatcher had to outmen the men because she was the first woman.
But she was a brilliant
used to the idea.
But it wasn't the fact that Thatcher was trying to emulate a man. She was just better than the men.
No, initially there was huge concern.
It's the ultimate feminism, isn't it?
There was huge concern around a female prime minister, and she sat down the electorate before the 1979 election and reassured them, you know, a woman can do this. She was massively compensating and seen as, I think, quite heartless from many because of that performance. Kemi doesn't need to do that now. We've moved on.
Well, maybe she... Well, do you think Kemi does? Because she's not... The Tories haven't been polling very well, and they need to do something.
At least we're talking about her.
And it's like, well, yeah, we certainly are. Yeah. And that's what it's all about these days, isn't it? If you're not being spoken about, then you're not relevant anymore, are you? That's just the reality.
Yeah, and she's capable of this kind of charisma. I really think that what the British people want is for politicians to stop being so wussy and weeping in the chamber and all this kind of thing. I think that she's
Churchill always cried in the chamber.
I think
nothing wrong
not
with
like
you
Rachel Reeves did.
That's okay.
I think, if you let me finish my point, I think that she's speaking on behalf of many British people who feel exactly as she does, and that the things that you're saying are spiteful were just simply true.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, panel. Very interesting debate. Coming up next.
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them.
President Trump halts the processing of Afghans waiting to enter the USA after the shooting of 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Is this a proportionate response from the president? And is it something we should be considering in the UK?
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates,
lively conversation,
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
and each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce,
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, the world was shocked yesterday after two members of the National Guard in the United States of America were shot in Washington, D.C. Andrew Wolf, aged 24, and Sarah Beckstrom, aged 20, remain in a critical condition. Authorities have confirmed that 29-year-old suspect is an Afghan national who previously worked with the CIA in his home country after arriving to the USA in 2021. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the US government plans to bring terrorism charges against the gunman and seek a sentence of life in prison. Well, a furious President Trump has responded by halting the processing of immigration requests for Afghan nationals and called for the re-examination of all Afghans who arrived during the Biden administration.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them.
Well, Afghanistan is one of the most dangerous countries in the world. So is it right for Donald Trump to stop Afghans entering America following this attack? And I'm very pleased to speak to someone now who knows the National Guard well, but also knows Mr. Trump well. GB News presenter Bev Turner. Bev, thanks so much for joining me all the way from Washington, D.C. there. I watch your shows all the time, Bev, and I know that you speak to these National Guard up and down Washington, D.C. This must have shocked the Capitol. Tell us what you've witnessed. Tell us about this tragic story.
That's right, Alex. So the National Guard have only been on the streets of Washington for a few months, and President Trump brought them in order to clamp down on the crime in this country. And there has been double-digit reduction in all types of crime, be that carjackings, assaults, homicides here in America. And they are, on the whole, the National Guard are a very calming presence. They are in full military fatigues. They are armed. They are normally walking around in groups of 3, 4, 5 of them, perhaps on the street corners, and they might say good morning to you. And they aren't there as an aggressive presence. You can see two in this shot here to the right. That is how different they look to normal law enforcement. And so they're very easily identified. And therefore, it became pretty obvious yesterday when we heard that this attacker, Ramanala Lakawar, had come around the corner and taken aim at them. It became pretty obvious that this was more than just a skirmish that perhaps had got out of control. I was on the site today where the crime took place, and I can show you that footage now. The National Guard were just standing along here on 17th Street outside the Club Quarters Hotel when the perpetrator came around the corner from this direction, we believe, which is 17th Street, and the White House is about 500 yards in that direction. GB News office is about 300 yards in that direction. And as the perpetrator came around the corner here, he spotted the National Guard and he fired. The bus stop here, as you can see, has a pane of glass missing. That was shattered in the altercation. There remain bloodstains on the floor, but this is no longer a crime scene. In fact, the world's media have assembled here today because this story has moved from being a criminal one now to potentially a political one. That's right, because as you say, Alex, it emerged quite quickly that the perpetrator had arrived from Afghanistan in September 2021, we believe, but certainly during that period of time when Biden withdrew the troops from Afghanistan. And we can remember that time, it was incredibly chaotic. We've all seen the images of civilians literally trying to cling on to the aeroplane. Well, it transpires that the shooter on this occasion was actually working with the American CIA in Afghanistan during that war. And so the questions now will be asked about what happened to him when he returned when he came to America, and rather than supporting this country, had very much turned against this country. We know that he had got in his car and he'd driven nearly 3,000 miles from Washington State, not to be confused with Washington, D.C., where I am now. They believe he has a wife and 5 children. He's 29 years old. He is also in hospital. We understand that he was also shot by the National Guard. And one of the tragic details of the victims that we're seeing here, particularly the young woman that we're looking at here, Sarah Beckstrom, she had volunteered to work today. It's Thanksgiving Thursday here in America. The streets are deserted. The shops are all closed. The closest we can get to this for us is Christmas Day here. And she'd actually volunteered, just 20 years old. These soldiers, in inverted commas, are effectively civilian soldiers. They have other jobs. Sometimes they're at college still. They're just trying to do something in service to their country, to add to their CV. They're good people. And this is what has triggered such a response, particularly from politicians in this country. We saw Kash Patel, FBI director, on the streets, on the scene, within an hour of this happening, saying we will clamp down on this in the strictest way possible. We had Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, committing 500 extra National Guard troops to the streets in Washington, D.C. And we had Pam Bondi as well, saying that they are monitoring the situation carefully. If either of these National Guard lose their lives, they will be calling for the death penalty. She was saying, obviously, we do not want that, but we are treating this in the utmost seriousness, Alex. And we'll have more on this on The Late Show Live tonight at midnight.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Bev. I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it? Because, of course, we also think about what's happening here in Britain. We've been obviously bringing over a lot of people from Afghanistan as part of our sort of process to pay them back for the service they've done for our country as well. And it sort of sends a little bit of a shiver. Is there any? How was the feeling in the capital today? Very briefly, if you don't mind, Bev.
How was what? Sorry, Alex, I missed that.
The feeling in the capital today, is it feeling quite solemn? Is it very people feeling scared?
I think there's a tragic irony in the fact that it is Thanksgiving. So it is a day when it is not a religious ceremony. It is about the history of this country, where people sit around with their family, they eat their turkey and they give thanks for what they feel grateful for. It's a day of gratitude and reflection. And the idea that there are 2 families today who've had young people spending Thanksgiving in a hospital with the families by their hospital bed gives it a certain poignancy, Alex, and it's certainly the lead story on every news outlet here in America.
I'm sure it is. Bev, thank you so much for joining me. You can get more of this developing story at midnight on The Late Show Live. Anyway, that's all from me. Up next is Patrick. Patrick, what have you got coming up on your show, mate?
Yeah, great show, Alex. Good stuff. So loads on tonight. Well, Keir Starmer promised that it would be country before party, didn't he? And actually, I think he's just sacrificed millions of hard-working people so that he can stave off a backbench rebellion for just a couple of months. Pretty selfish stuff. Also, a devastating set of net migration figures. Asylum seekers now account for 44% of our net migration. We've only deported 3.5% of small boat migrants since 2018.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The showers moving through overnight, many places becoming clear by dawn, but some very strong winds, particularly in the north and the west. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place across northern and western Scotland. From this area of low pressure, moving to the north of Scotland, but the isobars really squidging together. Very strong gusts coming in here, 50, 60, maybe 70 miles an hour, perhaps even 75 in exposed parts, could cause some disruption. Blowing in plenty of showers for northern Scotland. Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showery rain for England and Wales at the moment, but that all clears through. Many places become dry and clear by dawn. Temperatures dropping to about 6-7 Celsius in most towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside, but generally not quite as mild as it was last night. It is going to be very windy, though, tonight, particularly, as I mentioned, across northern and western Scotland, where we have a Met Office yellow warning in place. The kind of gusts we're talking about likely to cause some travel disruption, perhaps also maybe some power interruptions as the showers move through, maybe a little bit of snow over the hills. Could be a wet start for parts of northwest England, north and west Wales.